The sun was setting over the busy town of Enugu, making everything look golden and warm. In the market, traders were loudly selling their goods and people were busy buying things. Tobena, a kind and respected teacher, was heading home. He felt happy because he was thinking about his wife Adaku, who he loved very much. Tobena had met Adaku during a university lecture on African literature. She was smart and very beautiful, and Tobena fell in love with her quickly. They started dating and soon got married. Everyone in Enugu thought that they were the perfect couple. Tobena's students loved him because he was gentle and wise. Adaku was known for her bright smile and happy laugh, which made everyone like her. Together, they seemed like they had the perfect life, and many people were jealous of them. But behind closed doors, things were not as perfect as they seemed. Tobena and Adaku lived in a neat and small house with a garden where Adaku grew colorful flowers. The house should have been a place full of love and joy, but instead it hid many secrets and sadness. Tobena often looked at their wedding photo, feeling sad and wondering what had happened to their happiness. The first signs of trouble were small. Adaku started to criticize Tobena about little things, like how he folded the laundry, cooked dinner, or spent his evenings. Tobena thought these were normal problems that married people have. But soon, Adaku's criticism turned into angry outbursts. One evening, after a long day of teaching, Tobena came home and found Adaku very angry because he had forgotten to buy groceries. Her eyes were filled with anger that surprised Tobena. "Do you even care about this family?" she shouted. Tobena tried to calm her down, but she slapped him across the face. The slap hurt, but the shock and feeling of betrayal hurt even more. He looked at her, too stunned to speak, his hand on his sore cheek. "Adaku, what's wrong? Why are you acting like this?" he asked, his voice shaking. Adaku didn't answer. She just stormed out of the room, leaving Tobena standing there, confused and hurt. That night, Tobena lay in bed, thinking about what had happened. He loved Adaku very much and wanted to believe that it was just a one-time thing. He convinced himself that it would never happen again. But it did happen again and again. The next time Adaku got angry, it was about a leaking tap in the house. One morning, Tobena sat at the dining table, drinking a cup of tea that had gone cold. He thought about the good times when their house was full of laughter and love. Adaku came into the room, looking very serious and upset. "Tobena, why haven't you fixed the tap yet? It's been leaking for days," she said, her voice sharp and cold. Tobena sighed and put down his cup. "I'll fix it today, Adaku. I've just been really busy with work." "Busy with work?" she said angrily. "Or busy ignoring your duties at home?" Before Tobena could say anything, Adaku hit the cup out of his hand. It flew off the table and tea splashed everywhere. The cup broke into pieces on the floor. Tobena looked at the mess, feeling very sad. He wanted to talk calmly, but it was clear that Adaku didn't want that. "Why do you always get so angry, Adaku? Why can't we just talk?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Talk? Talk about what? How useless you are!" she yelled. Her eyes filled with anger as she came closer to him. Without any warning, she slapped him hard across the face, the sound echoing in the quiet room. Bena stepped back, holding his cheek. It hurt a lot, but what hurt more was how sad and scared he felt inside. Adaku, please, he whispered, tears filling his eyes. This isn't like you. For a moment, Adaku's face looked softer, like she might say sorry. But then, she turned and left the room quickly, leaving Tobena alone with his pain and the broken cup. Later that day, Tobena was at work. His friend and co-worker Obi noticed the bruise on Tobena's face. What happened to you? Obi asked, looking very worried. Tobena tried to smile, even though he felt embarrassed. Oh, it's nothing. Just a little accident at home. Obi didn't believe him, but he didn't ask more questions. Take care of yourself, Tobena. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. Tobena nodded, thankful for the offer, but knowing he couldn't tell Obi the truth. He felt stuck, loving Adaku, but also being very afraid of her angry outbursts. As the weeks turned into months, Adaku's anger and abuse got worse. She wanted to control everything in Tobena's life. She told him what to wear, who to talk to, and even what to do at home. Tobena, who used to be happy and confident, now felt scared all the time. He walked around like he was in a bad dream, always worrying about what Adaku would do next. One night, Tobena stayed late at school. He was helping one of his students who was having a hard time with their homework. Time flew by, and he didn't realize how late it was. When he finally got home, he saw Adaku standing in the doorway. She looked very angry, and Tobena's heart started to beat faster. "Where have you been?" Adaku asked in a low, scary voice. "I had a meeting at school," Tobena said, trying to stay calm. "One of my students needed help." "Help? What about helping your own family? You think those students are more important than us?" Adaku grabbed a vase from the table and threw it at Tobena. He quickly moved out of the way, and the vase crashed against the wall, breaking into tiny pieces. "Adaku, stop this! You're scaring me!" Tobena yelled, finally letting his fear show. Adaku didn't stop. She grabbed Tobena by his shirt and shook him. "You worthless excuse for a man! You can't even take care of your own home!" Tobena tried to pull away from her, but she was very strong. Finally, she let him go and pushed him against the wall. Tobena fell to the floor, shaking with fear and shock. He watched as Adaku stormed out of the room, leaving him alone to clean up the mess. Tobena sat on the floor, feeling very sad and scared. He didn't know how much more of this he could take. The home that was supposed to be his safe place felt more like a prison, and the person he loved the most was the one causing him the most pain. Tobena wanted to fix things with Adaku. He thought about making a special dinner. He felt that might help. So he cooked her favorite meal. He hoped she would like it and that they could talk peacefully. They sat down to eat, but Adaku didn't seem happy. She took a bite and frowned. "This is terrible," she said, pushing her plate away. "You can't even cook right." Tobena felt sad. "I tried, Adaku. I really did." "Trying isn't enough," she shouted, standing up so fast that her chair fell over. She grabbed a heavy glass ashtray from the table and threw it at Tobena. It hit him right on the head, and he fell to the floor, blood dripping from the cut. Everything went dark, but he could still hear Adaku's voice, though it sounded far away. "You're pathetic, Tobena! Absolutely pathetic!" When Tobena woke up, he was in a hospital bed. His head was wrapped in a bandage. A nurse named Omalicha was sitting next to him looking worried. "Mr. Tobena, you're gonna be okay," she said softly. "But you need to tell me what happened." Tobena's eyes filled with tears. He couldn't keep lying. "It was my wife, Adaku. She did this to me." Omalicha felt very sorry for him. "You don't have to go through this alone, Mr. Tobena. We will help you. But you need to be honest." Tobena nodded. For the first time in a long while, he felt a little bit of hope. He knew he had to be brave, not just for himself, but for the son that they now had. He had to find a way to protect them and start a new life free from fear and pain. Tobena stayed in the hospital for several days to heal from his injuries. During this time, Omalicha, the kind nurse, visited him often. She was always there to offer support and encouragement. One day, she brought him a small recorder and a journal. "Mr. Tobena, you need to gather proof of what Adaku is doing to you," she said gently. "It's the only way to protect yourself and your son, Unduka." Tobena agreed. Each day, he felt his resolve getting stronger. When he returned home, he placed the recorder in hidden spots around the house. Every night, he wrote in the journal, detailing each instance of abuse. The entries were painful to write, but they also made him more determined to escape. One evening, while Tobena was writing in his journal, Adaku burst into the room. Her eyes were wild with anger. "What are you writing?" she demanded, grabbing the journal from his hands. Tobena's heart raced, but he tried to stay calm. "Just my thoughts. It helps me feel better." Adaku glared at him, but didn't push further. She threw the journal back at him and stormed out. Tobena's hands shook as he continued writing, knowing his secret was almost discovered. As the weeks went by, Tobena's recordings and journal entries grew. Each piece of evidence brought him closer to freedom. He shared his progress with Omalicha, who promised to help him find a safe place for himself and his son Unduka when the time was right. One night, after Adaku had another violent outburst, Tobena made his decision. He would leave the next week, taking Unduka with him. He packed a small bag with the essentials that he needed and hid it in a closet ready for their escape. The night before they planned to leave, Tobena sat with Unduka, reading him a bedtime story. As Unduka started to fall asleep, Tobena whispered, "We are going to be free soon, my boy. I promise." He kissed Unduka's forehead, his heart filled with both hope and fear. Tomorrow, their lives would change forever. But for now, he held on to the hope that they would find peace and happiness once they escaped Adaku's grasp.
Will Tobena and his son finally find peace? Or will Adaku's fury reach them even in their new sanctuary? Find out in part 2 of She Beat Him and He Couldn't Tell Anyone. Don't miss the thrilling continuation of this gripping story. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our stories. Also, please share your thoughts on Tobena's journey in the comments below and tell us what you think will happen next. Don't go anywhere. Part 2 starts now.